Good evening and welcome to the Watchman's Report. I'm Cody Higley, and tonight we're joined once again by Jason Foreman and Robert Landon for a pop-up on the money broadcast. And tonight we are going to talk a little bit about the financial audit for the city of Marion for the year 2021, which was just posted by the Auditor of State today. So it's a something that we've been waiting for quite a while. So we'll take a look at the audit and the findings and the corrective action that was mentioned in the audit report. So a lot to discuss, gentlemen, and where do you want to start?
Well, I think we need to start where they talk about the permission overrides. I think that's probably the biggest thing here. I mean, we might as well just talk about the elephant in the room, where the Auditor of State has verified things that Jay's been writing about for months now, with all these IT issues with New World, which, by the way, thank you again, Jay, for all your work, because obviously you have some personal family situations going on with your significant other having some health issues right now, and you're still sacrificing your time and resources to this endeavor. So honestly, I just wanted to give you a shout out for that, because I think it sometimes might go unseen by some of the citizens of Marion, the amount of work you put on behind closed doors. Cody as well. Cody does a tremendous amount of research. Both of these guys are just incredible in what they're doing for our community. So thank you to both of you guys. But going back to,
I'll second that with Jay, and I want to stress it. Not only, I mean, it's a tremendous. You talk about all the IT stuff, all the back end things that he does, but he also does a tremendous amount of research himself, reaching out to people, having conversations with city leaders and activists in the community. And then he's dealing with the unfortunate health situation with his significant other. I don't know how he does it. The man must only sleep maybe 2 hours a day and is going at 100% energy bar level the remainder of the day. So yeah, my hat's off to you, Jay, and best of luck to Melissa.
Thank you. We're looking at another hospital stay, but we'll get there. I'm honored to be doing this, really. Like, it's something we started a long time ago and we've been watching for a long time. So you guys can go ahead and start talking about this. Landon, can you explain this override permission a little bit in the New World specifically, and then I can elaborate on the failures?
Yeah, so then we talked on this just a little bit a couple of days ago, when we was talking about the New World issues and how it wasn't installed right. And we did touch on like the access matrix and how people should only have certain level of access within New World. So for instance, if you're a fire department clerk and you should be submitting accounts payable or payroll, you should only have access within the fire department's section of New World. And as an account clerk, you should not have override authority. Now, again, we're just using a hypothetical situation here. We're not saying that the actual fire clerk has this situation, just a hypothetical. But it is documented, as you can see on the screen here, and in the Auditor of State's report for fiscal year 2021. They did make note of that they found override permissions within certain employees. We don't know exactly which ones fully yet. We do have some potential sources that we're pending working on, but they did mention that there's override permissions given to people who should not have that. And again, Jay's been talking about this for months now, actually years, Jay, we've been talking about these things. And so essentially somebody who works at an account clerk level position in the city of Marion should not be overriding when they submit a journal entry or excuse me, not a journal entry, but a purchase order. They should not be able to override that purchase order and approve it. Because if they don't have the money in that line item, it should automatically keep them from being able to submit that request. Only people like the auditor, the city auditor, should have that override authority. So again, it's documented here, folks. This is stuff that we've been talking about. This is just validation of everything we've been talking about for years. So Jay, what do you have to say from the IT perspective on that?
Well, I know when we talked to Mr. Ralph Smith last night, who back in his day, by the way, he was probably far more qualified than even I am. He's probably far more qualified than your IT staff currently back in his day. Now, the technology has changed, but the fundamental foundational IT principles have not changed at all. So this level of access in an IT system is something that we've seen examples of for a very long time. I think, what is it? We have it back to 40 years or so now, off and on. And it turned into a complete snowball of insanity around the time with the New World System. Immediately, there were issues with the information technology, reconciliation, all kinds of things. I believe 12 and then 22 findings, if I'm not mistaken, back to back right after the software was installed. And these are, like I said, foundational level IT principles. You only give somebody enough permissions for them to do their job. We've been made aware of alleged widespread access to the New World System. We have made Mayor Collins aware of that. And we don't know exactly how many people had access to New World, but, segregation of duties, a clerk shouldn't have, a clerk, say, I don't like you were saying, in another department, may need to have view rights or certain rights in the system, but they certainly should not have rights to be able to pull complex reports or, for example, spend money or cut checks or whatever you want to call it. And these are foundational breakdowns of global IT policies and protocols. And, I cannot find any kind of documentation anywhere. I've talked to city officials. They don't, as far as I can ascertain, and talking to many officials, have any kind of an access matrix or trouble ticketing system. Trouble ticketing systems have been in place for a very long time, at least since the 70s in some form. You don't put something into effect in the IT, including permissions in IT, without a work order or a trouble ticket. And the reason for that is for tracking and accountability, oversight. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. No, and something else that we need to talk about is the end of year adjustment ordinance. So normally these like line items, these purchase orders that they might submit, and even if they override it, there should be like an end of year ordinance that kind of cleans up things. I remember we would approve that when I was on city council. So I don't know, from the gap of time when I resigned, I think it was October 14th, 2021 to the end of the year. I don't know why, to our knowledge, why Deputy Auditor Martin Watts and the incoming auditor and current auditor Miranda McGinnis did not present an ordinance to City Council to do those things. Obviously, she was new, but Martin Watts certainly should have known better as well. And so they had plenty of time to do that. So it seems like there was a lot of things that was going on in that gap of time from the time I left. And in fact, really, I got COVID pneumonia in the end of August. And so really was kind of absent until I resigned. So really, third quarter and part of, fourth quarter and part of third quarter, they really didn't have me there. So what was really going on? I think that's something else we're going to want to touch on here in the future as well.
Yeah, and the permission thing, we've established with multiple officials, previous and current, that the permission wars were going on. We know they were going on, and we have screenshots of highly inappropriate access by a former deputy auditor after leaving office. This creates also an ethical concern. I'm assuming financially, but definitely in IT. This is a huge point. And this may be some of the problems. Like, you got people who are not qualified to be making these permission changes. I don't care if they're the highest fiscal officer. And I said it to you when we were coming back up and I was trying to understand everything. I was like, Robert, I know you. And I know that you're not qualified to be in New World making these things are complicated, and one wrong move,
Right.
as you can see from the evidence, can land you in a world of trouble. So that's another thing that we've been pointing out to the finance chair and Mayor Collins specifically, as well as the special investigation unit of the Ohio Auditor of State.
Yeah, I mean, we just can't stress enough, folks, like how big of a validation this is of the work we've been putting in for months and the articles that, the things we've been talking about. And you have, as Jay likes to call them, Holocaust deniers. I mean, they're just denying facts and realities of events of what's happened. And for the auditor of state to verify what we've been saying, that there's been improper permissions and improper access to New World, people being able to go over there and override things. I know Cody's done a lot of research and work on some graphs and things that we're going to get into on the city's financial data. And that just kind of verifies where we're at right now, that there was just a lot of things going on that should not have happened. How did things get out of control with certain line items too? When we were managing things in the auditor's office, you would, like I mentioned before, you would pull a report, the cross fund report, and it would not match your statement of cash position. Your statement of cash position by rule is typically what you would rely on. That would tell you what amount of cash you would have in every single fund. And then they would tell us, well, the cross fund report is the one that should be doing that. So you would just get mixed information. And again, the Veritas, I think in one of the articles we're going to share, Jay, Veritas verified that. All of the money we've put into investing in them to do our books was verifying that these reports, you would pull a report and then it would give you inaccurate data, or it'd pull data from the wrong area. Like, it's crazy how much just the New World software really doesn't work. It doesn't work the way it's supposed to work.
Right. Yeah, and there's a lot of. Go ahead.
Is this the same article about the audit that you just had up, Jay?
No, this is the Ghost Committee, which there's widespread argument about. We're aware that there's probably missing council minutes. Everybody's aware of it. Twyla's aware of it. Bill's aware of it. Matt's aware of it. However, we don't know which ones, but we do know that everything that was written in this, we also have text messages between Mr. Landon and another long-term counselor that confirms that this committee never really met, especially during the software crazy that was going on earlier on and then later. So it begs a lot of questions here, man. Like, what's really going on? There's a lot of smaller explosions around this that we haven't yet reported because we can't yet. But as soon as we can, we will. But here's the data corruption. This is from Greg Blate of, what is it, Veritas? Yeah. So the auditor admitted in 2022 that the reconciliation and switches, whatever, were off keel, and that there were issues, data corruption, and all kinds of crazy problems going on. And this is in multiple articles. This is just the easiest one to read. And these are serious problems.
What's the source for this?
This would be Veritas and City Council minutes.
Okay. So this would have been in 2022?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I know we've had, I know I'm getting a little off topic here, but to give people context on why are we in 2025, the end of 2025, and just now getting an audit report for 2021. And the Holocaust deniers, the conspiracy theorists, is that it was just the books were just so messed up. And obviously that is part of the story. But the other big glaring part here is that we have admissions from current elected officials saying that the current auditor, Miranda McGinnis, intentionally just dragged her feet, wasn't showing up to the office, wasn't giving records request information to Veritas and to the auditor of state. She wasn't even giving information to city council and to the finance chair. Right. So when you're dragging your feet, you're not showing up to the office. Of course, things are going on for years. And I have more thoughts about that, but I just want to bring that up as context that there's no reason, no matter what you want to say about the books or anything, there's just absolutely no reason if somebody wanted an audit to be done sooner than we got it today. It absolutely should have been done a lot sooner.
Well, and before we go further, I just want to state that we are aware that the state of Ohio has advised the current Collins administration, and you guys have seen the messages. I don't censor the messages I send to my team guys. These guys are trusted. Absolutely. So they're telling us that the state has known that these workarounds that went on for a decade or more, which is absolutely in the IT sector unacceptable, period. Not only were being done because these safety controls were off, but they were not shared, and they were only known by a couple of people. So they weren't shared to your administration. Is that correct?
Absolutely. They never told me about a 90-day deadline to pull data out of utility billing on the servers because it was going to wipe it or not keep the data on the servers.
Yeah, I'm still
that was never shared.
So, and then we have confirmation from the current administration that they were largely unaware of any of this. You know what I mean, when they took office. So they feel kind of betrayed too. I know that the finance committee people that I've spoken to, other counselors, senior administration that the team has reached out to are kind of upset about this because they kind of, just like previous people, have inherited this snowball of crazy that is a culture of disregard for law and IT infrastructure. And the IT infrastructure is literally, in this day and age, is your vault door. It's integral to understand the IT problems here. If you don't understand them or you deny them, don't read the things that, are in black and white in the records, you're never going to grasp this. It's not going to ever make any sense. Mm-hmm. This is a culture that we have tracked from the 80s, password sharing, no passwords, all kinds of crazy stuff that we've gone over and over and over. And when you're a cop, I know Dennis and I, people have opinions about Dennis, but he served his community for 30 years or so. He retired. So, I kind of listen to Dennis. So when he tells me that this is serious and, this is a pattern of issues, I got to listen to him, and everybody else on the team agrees. Of course, you guys have a lot more information than we've published yet. But most of it's out, black and white or in video. So we can go ahead on that now.
Well, and then just to piggyback real quick, one last point on that, on the IT, and I know Cody wants to talk about some of the financial stuff here with the graphs and charts. Why do we not have any documented reports on the current city IT leadership? They've been in there, what, Cody, since 2014? Is that right?
2014 is when Jacob Bolton took over.
So why do we have no reports showing that they did any kind of internal IT audits, no kind of internal checks? There's just no history of anything like that. And that is very critical, is it not, Jay?
Yeah. So the IT infrastructure in a $70 million a year budget business, basically, he should have logs, spreadsheets, access matrices for everything from keyboards to mice to monitors to everything. And I'm just not seeing that. And I've never seen any kind of documentation that states that there was any kind of even a medium dive into the IT controls, permissions, New World, Magic Writer, nothing like. I'm sure that the auditor did general controls or a spot check audit, as I call it. That's not a forensic audit. Right. A forensic audit is going to look at everything: logs, right, IP addresses, who was logged in where, from what computer, you know what I mean? Everything you can imagine. And they can even go through and, request, if they exist, phone logs and email logs, have things subpoenaed in. They can even break it down into code. They can order New World to hand over their source code. I've seen these things happen. I've never actually done it. I'm more of an IT admin, operations level, but I am aware of the process and how it works. You have to be.
Well, and why was the Information Systems Committee not ever meeting?
I don't know.
The only evidence that we've been able to find is when I was the chair of the committee in 2018, 2019, and we met to talk about social media policies, video equipment, to live stream before they ever started live streaming, That's really the only time. Where was this information systems committee back in 2008, 2009,
Right.
2010 when we were investing $1 million into a software? And then why did it suddenly just get disbanded? And what was it, 2023, Cody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Why
don't
did
know. I
it get
know
disbanded?
Aaron Rollins was asking the same thing. He was like, I don't understand why it was, disbanded immediately. And he had some pretty harsh words about that, but I'll invite him on and he can say his words. He has no problem with saying them. I'm not going to speak for him. But yeah, there's a lot of.
Just to clarify that though, you were chair of that when you were on council.
Yeah.
And you did have what the recommendation as chair to broadcast council meetings on Facebook. Was that the only initiative in that committee that you tried to accomplish? Did anybody talk to you, brief you as you took the chairmanship of that committee? Was anything discussed?
No. In fact, I remember because I don't remember if it was, maybe it was Councilman Rick Huddle was the other person on the committee with me, and then Ayers Ratliff was on the committee. And I remember talking to Ayers Ratliff right after I took office in 2018 about wanting to do our first meeting, and like, hey, why is this committee not meeting? Why? He's like, yeah, this committee's never met, like to his knowledge, and he had been on there for years, even back at that time. I think he got on back in 2006 or seven. I don't know, somewhere in that time period. And he said, yeah, this committee's never met to my knowledge. And so I really found that odd as an incoming rookie council member when you have such a city to our size. I know we're not Columbus, but to Jay's point, I mean, we're a $70 million business essentially. Why are we not meeting to talk about our information systems? And
And why isn't
where's,
anything being tracked? That's my whole thing. Like, we have
yeah,
I've talked to so many people. These are people that would know, counselors, city employees, people that I know in the community from the studio days, um, including people that are in the financial sector in the city or county. And they have no recollection of any kind of tracking systems, or I don't even want to talk about it anymore because it just makes me crazy.
yeah,
Well,
It drives my IT OCD nuts.
the committee did meet. It was formed in 2002,
Right.
and there's published newspaper articles, indicating that it was an active committee. Kind of fell off the face of the earth, I think, in like 2011.
Right.
And Becky Guston, who was Democrat on council for quite a few years, she was the last chair, at least up in 2011, I believe. And the articles that I found, it was all relating to the city's telecommunication systems, which is odd because you would think that with a major expenditure on a new software program for the city that was approved by council in October of 2008 and was fully installed and operational in the city of Marion by July of 2009, you would think that there would be discussion in that committee. Now, New World did not, that whole plan did not originate, as I understand it, in the Information Systems Committee. It was, I believe, discussed in Finance Committee, which was, I think, chaired at the time by Ralph Cumston. But then it was brought to council and kind of under the control and direction of the former auditor of the city of Marion, Kelly Carr. So this is the ordinance. And you can see the other interesting thing is that they didn't take bids. So it was done on an emergency basis. passed on an emergency basis, not given the 3 readings, and they didn't take bids, and it cost almost $1 million. And this is at a time when the city's finances were very, you talk about now being in question, they were very much in question at that time. And if you pull up that graph that
Which one?
the graph with revenues and expenditures.
There it is. I got
Oh,
a lot
well,
of
well, there. So yeah, so you look at that, and on the, you got each year covering a 20-year period on the horizontal axis, and then the vertical axis is the amount. So we're talking total annual revenues, total annual expenditures, and governmental funds balance. So as you can see, starting in 2007, actually, so the year before the crash, so the last year of Mayor Jack Kellogg, the city's expenditures were exceeding the city's revenues. 2008, kind of the Great Recession period. It continues in 2009, and then 2009 into 2010, there's a serious discrepancy. They're spending a lot more money than what they have coming in. And then you can see also there that their governmental funds balance took a decline at that time. And things were bad, and really bad, until 2012, going into 2013. Then they started going in the right direction. But again, you look at that and you say, the contract for the old software was expiring. So apparently they had to do something. I don't know if they looked into renewing. I know the justification stated was that we need increased efficiency and functionality, bill payment and departmental transactions and things. But to put that in the context of, you've got a financial crisis, not only in the city of Marion, but also the state of Ohio and the United States. Articles around that time, the discussions, the meeting minutes, the works is talking potential layoffs, deficits, really hard times. And then you go and propose expending upwards of $1 million on a new software system. You don't take bids, and then you approve it unanimously under an emergency provision, to where you're not even giving it 3 readings. You're just doing it. Oh, wham, bam, here you go. We're doing this. That's just another example of a very questionable action, don't you think?
Absolutely. I mean, in the height of the Great Recession, and as much as Schertzer would always talk about how, well, and first of all, he would say things like this to me. Well, it takes a year or two for the city to really feel the impact. We're always like a year or two behind what's happening nationally. Like, I mean, this guy was just like excuse after excuse. Nobody in their right mind who's trying to be a good administrator, a good leader, a good financial steward is investing that amount of money and then not also scaling back your expenses, knowing you're going to have a reduction in revenues because of the Great Recession. And then they bonded it out because we obviously didn't have the cash or at least the willingness to use the cash to invest in it. So we bonded it out. It's anybody in their right mind knows that this was not a good decision, especially at that time. And to your point that we didn't bid it out, there wasn't this transparent process of 3 readings. If this would have happened during my tenure, if this would have happened during Miranda's tenure, or anybody else's tenure, there would have been a lot more scrutiny. But because the powers that be only want spotlight on anybody but them, everything was always swept under the rug or, just pushed through and rubber stamped approval. And of course, if the deputy auditor at the time wanted something, Schertzer was, right behind her, giving her whatever she wanted because she really controlled him. So that's just the unfortunate truth and what's happened here. They did not make a good decision in the height of the Great Recession, and now we're still paying for that years later. I mean, we're paying. When I left, it was 16,000 a year in annual maintenance fees, not including if you want to, train people on it. Then they charge you $4,000 or $5,000 more. So I can only imagine, it's probably 120,000 a year, I would guess now, in annual maintenance fees. So look at how much the taxpayers have been put on the hook for a software that a financial forensic accounting firm was having problems deciphering and using and getting the data and was even saying that, hey, this data, every time we pull these reports, things are just not matching up. It switches the data on you. So
And they gave up. They fired the city. They threw their hands up in the air and said, we can't figure this out.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. Like, I don't know. I mean, I do. I understand. I like to play stupid. I understand what's going on here. The finances, it takes me longer than it takes you guys. But all these signs with Veritas saying that all these things are going crazy. And for me, looking at this, I'm thinking, and that's why I got the rise when I went and spoke to council that night. I could tell immediately we were right about everything. I said, I'm going to guess, that you guys had software switches that you were playing around with that were causing other problems. And immediately people that were looking down like, what is this idiot rambling on about? Were looking at me like, oh, shit. You know what I mean? Like if you were in the room, you saw it. And we knew. And then immediately people started talking to us because, of course, that's something that we guessed based on factual information over a very long period of time that was later confirmed many years later that software controls were off or misconfigured or not installed. This is your what you were talking about where they didn't do the competitive bidding, Mr. Cody.
Yeah. And I mean, anytime that you have a major capital expenditure, especially something that you're going to bond out, as Mr. Landon said, so you're going to be issuing bonds in order to finance that over a period of years. You damn well better take your time and do things correctly. You should be getting bids on that. And that's across the board. There's really not much in the way of excuse. Now, they allow you, the state of Ohio and the Ohio Revised Code allows you under certain circumstances to basically say, well, for an emergency, we really need this right now. And that's kind of a bullshit argument too, because this was done in October of 2008. So they had already had 10 months. And if there was some contract with their prior software provider that was expiring, then they should have been on it and taking the time to do their due diligence to figure out what provider, what system, what software would be best and would be the most cost effective for the city. And it doesn't appear that that is what they did.
Right.
And that's just another red flag to anybody that's out there listening that has any kind of an in-depth IT background, even a what I keep calling a freshman IT professional. That would be somebody that's been in IT for just a couple of years, but understands enough to be on their own, I guess. They're not management level, but they definitely understand Active Directories, permissions, things like that they need to know to not get themselves sued or fired, or arrested. I mean, there's some pretty stiff criminal proceedings that can come about for IT people, especially in municipalities with taxpayer fund protection. When I see stuff like this, I'm just like, wow. Like,
Well,
Now, Jake,
software,
go back to the graph, if you would, for a minute.
software, in IT, software, generally the IT people should know that that's coming, you know what I mean? That's going to come up eventually, and they should know well in advance before anything happens enough to at least proactively be like, yo, this is going to expire, or this software is not going to work, or it needs to be patched, whatever, the circumstance may be. In this case, it seems to me that they said it wasn't going to function any longer. I'm going to have to research that. I don't know enough about the previous software, but that just sounds fishy to me from an IT perspective. First of all, like I said, because generally speaking, I don't know about Marion, the history of the lack of IT controls in that city is astounding to anybody I've ever talked to, including of course, me. But they should have known that this was going to expire or not function or whatever well in advance, enough to
and
take
Jay, the other thing I haven't even mentioned, guys, is that this doesn't even do the income tax collection portion of the city auditor's office. So something that we haven't discussed yet is that our income tax functions are done on a different software. And it looks very archaic, like it looks like it's got Microsoft Windows 98 or something. Like that's how old it looks. And so it doesn't even integrate with that. So, you got to talk, we were paying separately. I don't remember the cost. I mean, it wasn't like a significant amount, but you're still talking, I want to say it's probably around 20, 30,000 a year we were paying for that software. And that had been in there for years. So we weren't even putting our income tax collection functions on New World.
That, and there's the two largest revenue sources for the city of Marion are income taxes and property taxes. So you're telling me that one of the top two was on a completely different archaic system?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was called City Tax. That was the name. We'll have to Jay, I'll have to get that to you actually, since we haven't really talked about that. But I was just while we were talking here, I was thinking about that this software didn't even do everything that it could or should have done. We talked about the bank reconciliation module not being used, and you have to do all these workarounds to make it work. And it was not set up right. And then even when we were using it, there was things we could have been using that we weren't using. And then the fact that the data would just switch up on you no matter what you were doing, as verified by Veritas. And then we're not putting our income tax collections on there. You would think that you would put everything in one software, make it cohesive if their goal was to be efficient.
Yeah, and if you're not taking bids and you're not shopping around, then you don't really know what the other service providers can provide. It'd be like going out and buying, some house without looking around at other ones and paying $1 million for it, and you'd never seen it sight unseen. You just rush and you go and buy it, and you didn't look at anything else. Like, that's not
Yeah.
very smart. Especially, it's wrong when you're talking about taxpayer funds. It's one thing
Yeah.
if you want to be a fool in your private life and do dumbass things, but when you're talking about major expenditures of public funds, taxpayer funds, then that's why the law requires you to get competitive bids.
Mm-hmm.
That's also why procedurally the rule is that you're going to have 3 readings for an ordinance. That way there can be the appropriate amount of deliberation and thought and chance for discussion and amendments. Only in certain circumstances, if it is a
Custom.
true emergency, should you suspend the rules and give it 1 reading. But that's why these safeguards are put in place. Now, I wanted to focus on this just a little bit, just to point out, because I updated it with 2021 figures since those were just released today. Now, financially, on December 31st, 2021, that blue line, which is total revenues, was about $2 million above what that orange line of total expenditures were. And then that gray line, total governmental funds balance, was pretty steady, a slight decline from the prior year, but not bad. So what this tells me, now we're waiting on them to complete and release the 2022 fiscal year financial audit. I think the projected release date for that is late December. So we might have another financial audit released. But this shows a fairly decent, it would appear that the city's finances are in pretty good shape at the end of 2021. Hell of a lot better than if we look at 2010, where I think there was about $9 million.
Wait, so Cody, you're telling me that during COVID, which actually had arguably a greater financial impact on our economy than the Great Recession did, because the Great Recession didn't shut our entire economy down. Literally, almost everything came to a complete halt during COVID. So you're telling me that we weathered the storm during COVID better than we weathered the storm during the Great Recession?
I think the figures, at least through the end of 2021 on the audit and stuff, was better. Yeah, you can't argue with that. Now you're comparing apples to oranges a little bit, because the Great Recession was basically the housing bubble. So you had a substantial decline in property tax revenues, property tax values, and then property tax revenues. Again, the 2 top sources of income for the city of Marion.
Yeah.
But as far as a societal and just impact, I mean, that was just a crazy time. The whole COVID thing, shutting businesses down and lockdowns and all that kind of stuff. I mean, they were both bad. They were different in their characteristics, but yes, it's very clear that as of that date, folks, state of Ohio agrees that the city of Marion's finances were pretty solid. I mean, again, having a buffer of almost $2 million between your revenues and your expenditures is pretty damn good. Look at the lines in the graph. That's historically going back 20 years. That's pretty healthy right there. So now the thing that concerns me is, what's 2022 going to say? What's 2023 going to say? What's 2024 going to say? And Jay, if you'll pull up either that article or if you have the audit report.
Give me just a sec.
Yeah.
And after that, Cody, let's not forget about the income tax collection graph we have from when I was in. I do want to go over that as well.
Where you want to go in the article, sir?
Those particular fund balances exceeding their allocations or appropriations. Okay, so to me, these are probably the funds that we're going to want to keep an eye on in the 2022, 2023, 2024, possibly additional funds, but in the corrective action, in the findings and the corrective action section of the 2021 financial audit for the city of Marion, they mentioned that they removed the general ledger override authority on October 27th of this year. So that was a corrective action that was only just done in October of 2025 in reference to how do we fix some shit that was wrong in 2021.
Well, that was after we had sent the complaints to Bill and
Yes.
state regarding permissions and software access and a whole list. I mean, it was an extensive email. It was quite long. 2 of them, actually.
Yeah. But my point with bringing this up is that it's pretty clear to me then that went on for that entire time.
Mhm.
So these funds, so we got the police fund exceeded its allocations or appropriations by $567,688. The fire fund by $625,738. And general fund transfers out. That's a hell. I mean, I'd like to know what that was in particular.
If I remember correctly, that's when you transfer it out to the actual police and fire funds. So like you would take from the general fund and transfer it out to cover those. That's just the way they had it set up. So I remember us taking ordinances to finance committee to, whenever funds would get low, they would rely on those funds, that revenue to come in from general fund, and then you would transfer it over to their individual funds.
Okay. But if that continued, then it'll be interesting to see how many of these funds are exceeding their appropriations and how many of them have negative balances. So I think you have the overall negative, or the ones that were negative, right?
Right. We have the police and was it the police and fire pension fund?
I think it was just their operating fund. I don't think it was just the pension.
Okay. Yeah,
But anyway, it's in the audit report. I don't know if it's on Jay's article here or not.
This is a preliminary. We'll publish a far more extensive one. This was just what we had time for this afternoon in between, all of us working and the various other crazy that life has going on right now.
But that's the thing. I think the takeaway would be. Now they also, they talk about differences in forms of accounting between a cash basis and a GAAP or the generally accepted accounting principles. The state of Ohio obviously has a preference for GAAP, which when you were auditor, you did the cash basis, right?
Yeah, you're supposed to operate on a cash basis, and that's the whole issue with the New World software is when it was set up, the utility billing operates on a modified accrual basis. And that's where you got the whole issue where if you don't pull those reports within the first 90 days, when you start your new fiscal year, you have to back out that data into your reporting because then it's going to misconfigure everything. Then your reports are going to be off. And then after 90 days, the data goes away. So then you don't have it. So it makes it very fun to work with.
Yeah, and I think that if you read through the audit, yeah, there were issues. I mean, I don't think anybody is denying that as far as reconciliations and uh, that sort of thing. I think a big takeaway should be that the overall financial position or health at the end of 2021 appears to be strong, as long as we can rely on the data as reported in the audit report. Um, but who knows what happened in the years after that? And a lot of the questions, I think, center around those permissions and what the framework was of the New World software. So, um, and just in case you're wondering where do you find this, Jay, can you bring up just show people how to do those searches on the
Right.
Auditor of State?
The audit's actually posted on marionwatch.com, but it's on the Auditor of State's website.
Oh, did you post the 2021 on here
Yeah,
too?
it's on there. We just did the, while I was at work, the team, I mean, you guys are in the chat. I know you weren't in it too much today because you were also busy, but it is in here in the 2021 audit article. It's right
There's
here.
a link to it.
It's right here. Yep.
Right there.
You can
Yeah,
click.
so if you want, folks, go on the website. It's just marionwatch.com.
Yeah.
Go on that, pull up this article, and then you can read through and review all 95 pages of the audit. Now, at the back, toward the end of the audit report, will be the findings and the corrective action. So you can see what the Auditor of State feels needs to be addressed. And it'll also say what has been addressed since the prior audit.
Well, and Cody, if I
So,
can,
yeah,
on that, just real quick. And isn't it interesting that, again, as Jay calls them, the Holocaust deniers, they like to cherry pick these audit reports. So they're looking at like negative fund balances or like these journal entries needing to be adjusted. Which again, Veritas said these reports aren't always accurate. Things change in the system. But then they don't want to hear things that Jay has been speaking about with the whole IT issues and permissions and everything like that. Why are people cherry picking this, Cody? What do you think about that?
I think there's people that have agendas. I mean, this is a political matter. I also think that there's a reason why they did not want a member of the opposite party uh, who was, I guess, fairly new to the scene and also had a reputation of being kind of polar opposite to what their particular establishment was. I don't think that they wanted you in that position. So yeah, I mean I think that that's kind of they
Well,
wanted to
and
make things.
we have just, I'm a side quest here real quick. We have so much juicy information coming, Jay, have we not, about some, I mean, we have so much data. We have some big announcements to make over the next couple weeks and months of just so much stuff that has happened that we can't wait to share with you. But obviously
At
it
the
takes
right
time.
time.
Yeah, it
So
has to be the right time.
there's a lot of signs in here that are pointing towards, and I know that not Twyla won't tell me anything. She'll tell me what she's allowed to tell me, but other members of council have taken notice that have applicable backgrounds, and there's signs pointing towards other agencies being involved in this. I'll just end it with that. And there are certain things that I'm being advised by legal consultants such as Mr. Cody and law enforcement consultants such as Mr. Dennis and his people, who are telling me when is the appropriate time to release this stuff. And I keep on talking about this magic box, and that's what I'm talking about. That is the beginning of the fuse. And the beginning of the fuse is only being worked on currently by Dennis and myself. The team is kind of aware of what's going on with that, but we consider it to be volatile and possibly dangerous. And the last time Dennis warned me about that was during the ballot fiasco. He was like, I don't even want to talk about it. We've talked about it before. You can go into it if you want. But basically, when Dennis and Cody tell me not to do it, I wait. And the magic box has to do with a lot of secondary explosions that are surrounding the previous administration. I'm speaking towards the Schertzer administration and their people, of course. Consider including several things, and I just can't speak on it yet. We have roughly 2 terabytes of information.
Oh, yeah.
Go down just to show people, find where they have the corrective action, and they list the date of October 27th. Trying to think.
I got
which one that
excited. Hang on a minute. I started reading again. Let's see here.
It's in
I
here
just
somewhere.
saw it. Right there.
Okay. So again, let's read this one. Permissions to override budgets have also been removed from all users within the New World system, with the exception of the city auditor. Permissions removed October 27th, 2025. This is the 2021 audit. So this was not fixed. It was
That was just a couple
continuing.
weeks ago.
Yes, that was
Right.
a couple of weeks ago. So I have been accused of misrepresenting what current auditor Miranda McGinnis said at that council meeting 2 meetings ago.
Well,
When this was brought up, even though I sat there and transcribed her statement verbatim and said, oh, she wasn't talking about that. You don't know what you're talking about. Bullshit.
first of all,
Here. Right
before
here.
you even published, you sent it to Mr. Landon and myself, and you asked me if you had it right, and I was like, "Yeah, that's right. That's exactly what was said. That's you're understanding it exactly right." I mean, you transcribed it, but we all know how that goes sometimes. But yeah, no, you were perfect in your understanding of the situation. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah. And do we have the details? I mean, just like this audit report is pretty high level or generic in a lot of respects. It's not telling you in detail that Jay McDonald had override authority and exceeded it by this, or Kathy Chafin, or you name the city employee or city official. It
The
doesn't
mystery
tell you
user,
that.
one of the
It just
mystery
says,
users,
what's that?
one of the mystery accounts.
Yeah. So they know. That's another example of they don't disclose everything. You think they're going to put all the little fine details in an audit report? No. And if that's obviously that was a big issue, it was a big no-no. So it was something that same night, not only did Miranda McGinnis say that, but that's the council meeting that Mayor Bill Collins announced his request for a fiscal distress analysis. So that was kind of a big meeting that night. And is it a coincidence? No, I don't think it's a coincidence. I think the state of Ohio said, you're either going to do this now or we're going to do it. So you can either try to get ahead of it and control the narrative, or we're just going to announce that we're doing it.
One important
So-
point is, like, all this stuff happened like dominoes. So you had the permission thing, and then you had the fiscal thing, and then you had confirmation through the team from Mr. Collins and the administration that they had seeked advice from the state auditor on exactly how to conduct or start a forensic IT audit. So this is all signs of, I guess, the hammer.
I think it's more than clear that there were substantial issues. There were substantial questionable actions taken. There was certainly the proper motive, opportunity. These are all things that you got to look at. And it's not to say that there weren't mistakes. Kim Hutchinson did make that mistake as deputy auditor. You did have COVID. You did have the payroll issue. You had a difference in reconciliation that was done. But again, it wasn't like you didn't have people who had prior experience in those positions. I mean, that
Yeah,
entire office, you had Perry Payne that had worked as internal auditor, had worked for Bob Kramer, who was Marion City auditor for
20
nearly
years.
20 years, I think.
Yeah,
And I
maybe.
think Perry Payne was his internal auditor for roughly about 10 of those. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it was like 7. But I mean,
Yeah.
you bring up a great point there, Cody, because if you stack up, let's do paper versus paper qualifications of my team versus her team. My deputy auditor's internal auditor. When you stack them up against when Kelly Carr first came in, it's night and day difference. So it's interesting that this Schertzer call and the Kelly Carr call, or you want to keep talking about her qualifications and how well she did and the staff and so on. And it doesn't hold up to scrutiny, because when you look at my 2 deputy auditors, you had Martin Watts, who had been doing public accounting at the county engineer's office for 30 years. You had Kimberly Hutchinson, who had been doing public accounting for the fire department at the city of Marion for 26 years and has a double bachelor's degree in business and accounting. And then you have Perry Payne, who was the internal auditor, and he had worked in private business, some corporation, I forget what it was, and did accounting for them. And then when you look at Kelly Carr's administration, she had Kathy Chafin, who was a clerk of council. Now, sure, she understands how council business worked, but she doesn't understand how the inner workings of a fiscal office worked. First of all, you had that. And then secondly, she brought in Cindy Thrapp. I don't recall what her qualifications were. And then I think this other girl named April, and she was like a administrative assistant who they still had doing obviously fiscal matters. So when you look at the qualifications, it's a night and day difference. And honestly, when you look at the qualifications between me and Kelly Carr, I'm going to hold that record every day of the week. I don't care what they say. I was more qualified coming into the office than she was.
Yeah, and I guess my point with that is it's further support that the system itself, or unauthorized access by certain individuals, is likely what was more of a contributing factor. It's not like you went to, I don't know, Goodwill Industries and said, "Hey, anybody want to work in the auditor's office? Come over here," and you piled them in your car and, "Okay, you're my deputy auditor. You'll be my internal auditor." No, these are people that had experience. So it's not like they couldn't add 2 plus 2 or had no clue what a ledger was or anything like that, that to me, that makes me think that, yeah, there were bigger issues. There were bigger issues here.
Well, I wish we could get Kimberly on, because Kimberly, when she worked at the fire department, she was there obviously when they brought in New World, and she couldn't stand it. I mean, she's got a lot of testimony she could share on even other employees in the office. We've talked about, what was his name, Brian Carr, former utility billing supervisor. He didn't like it. A lot of people really pushed back against it, but obviously they didn't have the control to really do anything. So I brought in somebody who had already been working in the software for that would have been what, 12 years, 11 years since it was installed in the time I took office.
Yeah. So, a lot of good information in here. There's more to obviously review and digest, but I think the big takeaways that people in the city of Marion should know is that, at least as of the end of 2021, the overall financial situation in the city of Marion was pretty strong, was okay. We'll see what happens when the subsequent audit reports are released. We know that going into from 2023, there's going to be 2024. We know that we're going to see a big chunk of money that's going to be coming out during the transition between administrations. So you got one that signs you up for something, and you got another one that's got to pay the bill. So we'll continue to follow this, continue to go through things, do our research, try to piece everything together, and kind of go from there. So closing comments, boys. Jay, what do you got to say to the folks?
So I talked to Mr. Ralph Smith today for a short time, and him and I basically have the same outlook on this. This is a predictable outcome to decades of loose financial and IT controls. Not just it got way worse during the New World transition and after, but we can document this going back. So you have a culture of acceptable non-segregation of duties, password sharing, issues with all kinds of crazy. Most of it's already published. Some of it's not yet, but we'll get to that. And that's coming from, somebody who had extremely high security clearance, in charge of, at that time in Vietnam, some of the world's most sophisticated computer systems. So, these principles haven't changed, and this is the outcome of why you have to use your software controls, why you can't share passwords, why you can't leave things unlocked, why things need to be tracked, why there needs to be a ticket system, why there needs to be access matrix, why the server room can't be used as an office, why it shouldn't be used as a closet. Only people that are qualified should be changing permissions. You know what I mean? Like, this is a predictable outcome from an IT standpoint. It was going to happen eventually.
Yeah. Jake, can we pull up that tax report just very quickly? Because this goes in line with what Cody did earlier.
Which one? You talking about the trial balance ledger?
No, the one, it's got like my logo on it. When I was in office, it was about income tax receipts. And it just goes to show that when I took office, I had the sheriff's office, I had businesses, I had everybody came out of the woodworks saying, well, Kelly, I had this arrangement with Kelly's administration, or I had this, or I had that. Or we only work certain part of our time in the city and part of it outside of the city. Can we get a tax refund or this, that, and the other? I even told, and I even consulted with, speaking of talking and having meetings with Schertzer that he claims I didn't have. I talked with Scott Schertzer. I talked with Mark Russell. I talked with Tom Pannett. And I think even somebody from council, I said, hey, what do you guys think? I think we should just blanket. Everybody gets the same rules here. We're not going to do any exceptions, nothing like that. I don't want to worry about what agreement we have over here. We're going to follow whatever the state code says. And as you can see with this report here, look at those 2021 income tax collection receipts. That's a year after COVID started. And to Cody's point, that's a big contributor of why we did so well. We did not give any special arrangements to anybody. We treated everybody fairly. Everybody followed the same rules. And I think that was a big reason why we see that growth in income there for the city.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of false information out there. And I know Cody has urged me to watch all of the former council and various podcast shows. I'll definitely watch the council ones. Podcast shows, probably not. But it was a blatant attack with little to no facts that were factual. They were manipulated. Half truth is the most cowardly of all lies, and we're going to expose the truth. And I know some people aren't going to like that, and I know that it's going to be hard for people, but this has got to happen because it's been swept under the rug for so long, and apparently we're the only ones that want to look at it. So we're going to do that.
Amen. Well, guys, the first discussion of the 2021 Marion City financial audit is in the books. So I think this is probably the first show. Obviously, we're always on the front lines. You got some blowhards out there, some left-wing podcasters that try to say that they're the first. No. This was the first that you had anybody discussing this report and these findings. So we will continue to hammer it, to research it, to try to put everything together so that you out in the listening audience understand the truth. That's our goal here on the Watchman's Report, is to try to promote the truth so that moving forward, this city, and by extension, this whole area, Marion County, Marion is a regional hub. It's actually called a micropolitan city. It impacts, it casts a pretty large shadow to the surrounding areas. So as goes Marion, so goes the surrounding areas. So we have to change this culture. We have to change the way things have been done. And only then are we going to have a chance at a better tomorrow. If we don't, if we continue going down the same path, doing things the way they've been done for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years, we know where that leads us. So join us in that journey toward truth and toward a better tomorrow. So for Jason Foreman, Robert Landon, I'm Cody Higley, and you've been watching The Watchman's Report. And remember, folks, the watchman is always vigilant. Have a good night.
Have a good night, guys.
Have a good night.